Hi again. Okay, so I've teamed up with at least one other embroidery artist that I know, and we're going to be making these little mini kits that basically give you materials. And she's got a little sampler that she's made up, and I've made up my own sampler. And you'll learn 13 different stitches. This is sounding a lot like an ad, but it 100% is not. But basically, I just wanted to come on here and stitch it up with you guys, and then we can have a little chat whilst I'm doing it. So I'll kind of be explaining the stitches, but then I'll also be stitching it up and then putting it on YouTube for anyone who wants to buy the kit. So she's got, like I said, she's got her sampler, and then I've got mine. And the whole idea is that you can use the materials to do either her sampler or my sampler. They're both going to be little free patterns. And then the kits are kind of for those, if you know what I mean. So let's go. So I've got my 4-inch hoop. And here is the pattern, just like that. So we're going to put it just underneath and transfer. And this is the easiest way that I found to transfer. So there's nothing to do with the stitch along today. We've already done that live. So for now, I'm just gonna be having a chat and doing this. Whoa. And the whole point is that it's not going to be perfect, you know? Because it's just a sampler to learn a lot of the stitches. Let's move it like that. And I'm using a Pilot heat erasable friction pen. I'm going to erase this with a hairdryer. Okay, and let's do these bottom ones. I'll be interested to know how many of you actually... Whoa. I've like missed a bunch of comments. I'm sorry, guys. I'll be interested to know how many of you will know the stitches just based on the... yes, this one is finer than the one I send in kits. This one is 0.5, and the one that I send in kits is 0.7 because I cannot get the 0.5 ones to come in like big packs. These come in a pack of 3, I think, and I got them at Target last summer. This is always the most difficult because I can't rest my hand on anything. You guys, this is so good. I'm doing a great job. All right. So this is what we have. It looks like this, and then it's going to look like this. So yeah, this is going to be a full kit. So you get the 4-inch hoop, and you'll get fabric, and then you'll get 1 or 2 thread colors that you'll be able to pick. So you'll be able to pick what color fabric. And I've gotten out a lot of my own stash of linen. So there's this really pretty like rusty red color linen. And then there's this like seafoam green. And then I also have this nude color, like natural. I've got a really dark blue. I've got regular cotton. I've got some patterned cotton. There's a bunch of stuff. So I think it'll be really fun because it's something for people who it's just really easy peasy, and you can learn a lot of stitches from it. So the first one is the Fern Stitch. This stitch is one of those where you work it in a pattern. So it always goes a straight stitch here, And then you can choose either right then left or left then right. It's up to you. But it always goes in this pattern. So Fern Stitch. And then you do the straight piece. So I'm really excited about these. Like I said, my friend, she made her own sampler for it, and she's selling, what kind of thing is this? How does that happen? And she's selling basically the same thing. Hers come with some scissors, and she's based in the States. So the shipping might be a little bit quicker if you're in America. Yeah, imagine rainbow colors. That would be so fun. So I know in the kits, they're meant to kind of like get you started, like almost like my mini kits are. So they're not going to be like you wouldn't get rainbow colors, but this would be gorgeous as a rainbow actually. So the whole idea is that I'm in England, and hopefully people in England will be able to get the kits faster than if they order from America, you know? And then the people in America will get the kits faster if they order from America. And then we might have someone from Canada doing it as well. So we're just slowly taking over the world with this embroidery, aren't we? Hi, George. So yeah, the Fern Stitch, it's really just a configuration of straight stitches. And it goes like this all the way around. I think this is probably one of the ones that takes the most time because it's like the biggest line. Does that make sense? Oh, my video's done. My YouTube music is finished. Oh no. But I do love this as borders. I love it as a, I normally use it as like a green foliage type thing. I only get an hour for Instagram Lives, so my task is to do this in an hour. Oh, thanks. They're actually like a little bit sparkly as well, but you can't really see when they're out of the sun. So yeah, this will be uploaded onto YouTube, and then you can watch it whenever you want to, and then hopefully you'll go and grab the pattern. It's gonna be hard here, isn't it? And you can grab a kit to go along with it. I do love that thread going through the fabric sound. It sounds so nice. Someone asked me the other day, like, what do you do in your spare time? Like, what do you like to do? I was like, stitch. I like to stitch. Isn't that ridiculous? But I do. I love it so much. So there you go. Now, because it's a sampler, you don't have to really worry about like making it perfect or anything like that. I mean, obviously, I think they look cool, so you could put them on the wall, or you could put them like up on a bookcase or something. But it genuinely is to like practice your stitches. So sometimes when I'm just like if I have a bad day or something. Samplers are so good for that. I said stamplers the first time. But samplers are so good for that because you just like zen out, you know? And for this one, I'm using all 6 strands. I'll use all 6 strands for every part of this sampler, but you can also use 3. So three strands looks 3 strands looks a little bit more delicate. So you can tell that that's 6, and then we've got 3 here. So it will be a little bit more delicate, and your lines will be a lot thinner. So you can experiment with like different strands of thread as well. So this would be good if you wanted to do like 3 strands or 2 strands, 4 strands, 6 strands. Then you can really get a good idea of what all the strands look like with the different stitches. All right. So this one is finished. The next stitch is stem stitch. We've done this one loads of times and I use it for all sorts of things. It's great for lettering, it's great for outlines, it's great for a stem. Super fun. So the stem stitch works like this. If you have a hump like this, you want to put your loop on the outside of the hump. I could just say curve, couldn't I? So here we go. Let me just get it in the middle so you can see. So you're gonna make a stitch. And then, good morning, Kim. And then come up in the middle of those stitches. It doesn't have to be exactly in the middle, but you wanna come in that loop and pull it tight. 11:57, yeah. It's like no man's land. So your next loop, you're gonna go up right where you came down here. Again, it doesn't have to be the exact same hole. But the closer these stitches are, the more that they'll look full and together. And this gives almost like a rope-like texture. And we just continue all the way around. Some people call this the outline stitch, and that is very similar, if not the same stitch. It's just worked in a straight line instead of on a curve. Thanks, Kim. She said, this is so cute. Yeah, so we're gonna learn 13 different stitches, hopefully in an hour. We'll see. We'll see what Instagram says. I should have just done it as a plain video, but then I thought, you know what? I might as well talk to some friends whilst I'm doing this, that I don't have to like sit here and talk to myself. And then we end with a little half stitch here. There we go. So the next one is a French knot. Now, this is obviously a really simple way to do French knots. So here we go. There's lots of different ways that you can do the strands. So I'm doing 6 strands. You can do 3 strands or 1 strand or 2 strands to get a smaller knot. You can also use less or more wraps to get a bigger or smaller knot. So we're just going to do a really average in the middle. We're going to do all 6 strands, and then I'm just going to do 1 wrap to make a little knot there, like this. So you're going to bring your needle up, and you want to hold this thread here, put your needle on the top, do a little wrap around and put it right back down. You don't want it to be too tight because you still have to get your needle through. Yeah. Simple, easy peasy. Needle on top, do a wrap, stick it down. And you don't want to let go of this thread here that my thumb is on until all of the thread is almost through the hole. Now, obviously I have a short thread now because I've already done all of those other stitches. So I'm gonna have to reload, I think. Ooh. Can I do it? Someone says, my 7-year-old and I are loving watching this. I think he'd enjoy trying this. Yeah, definitely. So these will come with the kits, and I'll have it printed out for you with the right size and everything for a 4-inch hoop. Now on the back, I'm just going to do a little knot so I can get some more thread here. Snip off that excess, and then we'll get a bit more thread. Yeah, samplers are so good. And you know what? I used to really not like them because I kind of thought that if you're not making something, then what is the point? You know, if you don't make something out of it. So what I did is I kind of made one that it looks a little bit like a sunrise maybe, over some water or something. So it actually kind of looks like something. But really, it's a great way to, oh man, please don't. It's a great way to practice your stitches. Especially if you're not, if you don't need to make it for something, like if you don't have anyone to give it to or anything like that, you just want to do some stitching. Now, obviously you can go, I'm doing just one wrap. You can check my YouTube for other videos on how to do French knots with more strands, less strands, more wraps. So you can make really nice, big, chunky knots just by doing more wraps. And it's the same idea. So instead of just going around one time, you can go around 2 or 3 times. I wouldn't do more than 3 because that makes quite a large knot. Okay, so someone said, total novice here, but is the 6-strand thread something that you buy or do you make that? So thread comes in 6 strands automatically. It's stranded cotton. So you can see at the end of this one, all the little strands. And if you want less, then you can just pull out however many strands that you want. And if you want more, you can double up this thread to actually make 12 strands. Normally they come, let me see if I have any. Yeah, normally they come in a skein like this. And then I put them on the pegs so that they don't get, tangled or anything like that. Let's just turn this down a minute. This video is quite loud. You're welcome. So the next stitch is going to be a split stitch. A split stitch is exactly how it sounds. You're going to split each stitch. So we're going to go up from the back. And whatever your stitch length is, that's how long you're going to make every single stitch from now on. So I'm going to go up, make a stitch. And there's 2 ways that you can do it. You can come up from the in front of it and go back down to literally split the stitch like that. So I'll show you again. Let's see if I can't zoom in a little bit more. So you're going to go up ahead and come back and split the stitch. Yeah. The other way, a split stitch does not have to be done with an even number of strands. No. You can use any number of strands, even you can use 1 strand. So the other way is to come up through the stitch and then move forward. Both ways are fine. Both ways are acceptable. It just depends on which way you like the best. Some people prefer to go down into the stitch because it leaves it a little bit flatter, whereas when you come up into the middle of the stitch, you might kind of make that a little poofy. But I find I alternate between the two and it's completely fine. So there we go. You're welcome. Split stitch is also really nice for lettering. It gives like a nice thick outline. It almost looks like a chain stitch, which we are going to do. When you have a darker color, it really blends in together as well. So when the lighter color thread, the more you'll see each and every single individual stitch. And when you have darker threads, they'll kind of blend in a little bit more. So it depends on what kind of look that you're going for, especially with lettering. Hi, Carrie. Okay, and then always at the very end, I like to do a little half stitch because you're actually going to end on a full stitch here. So you don't want to have a full stitch at the end when you started and you've split it already. So I like to do a little half stitch and it gives it that faux look like you've started and split it, you know? All right, moving on. The next stitch is a detached chain stitch. Let me just move it around so you can see. So for this one, we're gonna come up down here at the point, make a loop, and go right back down where we came up. And you're gonna leave that loop open like that. And then come up at the very tip there. And then pull that through. And then you're gonna make a little securing stitch on the other side of that thread. Just like that. So I'll go around. Leave that loop like that. Carrie, split stitch is your favorite. That's so funny. I don't think anyone's ever said that split stitch is their favorite. Not that they don't like it, but normally the favorites are like really satisfying stitches, you know, like Satin Stitch or, not Satin Stitch, sorry. The woven wheel rose one, which is actually not in the sampler. But some people really like those. Some people really like French knots once they get them. Stem stitch is always a favorite. It is good for giving texture, especially if you want to fill in a whole space. You can kind of see that texture there. These detached chain stitches or lazy daisies, they're great for literally making flowers, making leaves. You can kind of see that these are each like a little petal. They make little petals. Oh, please don't fall out. Stitches by Mike's is one of my favorites too. I use it as a filling stitch, long and short stitch. Yeah, so I like long and short split stitch, even though I know that most people say that long and short stitch should be like a whole long and short stitch, like you don't split it. But I like long and short stitch when you split it. I've watched a lot of tutorials where it's almost like a brick stitch, you know, where you don't actually, like you go down the same hole that you came up instead of kind of going into the stitch. But I do love it. Come on, you can do it. Now, the more that you work with your thread, the more it might come undone like this. And it just means that all of the, have I got a knot on the back? No. What is your dealio, man? And it just means that your threads are like slightly twisted when you get them. And the more that you work with them, the more they become untwisted. So there's that. Next stitch, Satin Stitch. We're gonna fill this whole thing up in Satin Stitch. Obviously, I did a great job of tracing. Carrie says, I use it a lot for characters to fill that in. It kind of reminds me of fur. That is a great idea. I love that. So Satin Stitch is like this. Normally you go up on one side, you go down on the other, and you fill the whole shape. And that's it. Satin Stitch is one of those, in theory, it's very easy. But the more that you do it, the more you realize that it does take practice. So you want to make sure that your stitches are just one thread length apart. You don't want them to be like, you know, on a different angle. You want them to be parallel together like this, just one thread apart. Carrie says, Satin Stitch is my downfall. It does help to practice, like filling different shapes. Curved edges are always notoriously hard because they're normally the same curve on either side, like a sun. But now I'm running out of thread, so I'm going to do the thread saver method. And that's to come up on the same side that you just went down and then go back and forth that way. And that makes it so that you aren't using so much thread on the back. Carrie says, I struggle with anything that's wide at the top and thinner at the bottom. That is totally understandable. It is hard. It is really hard to do it. You can tell that my thread is becoming untwisted. Let's see if I can't pull them straight. And I'll get new thread in just a minute. Come on, just a couple more. You can do it. Here we go. Last stitch. There we go. So we have a satin stitch in the middle. Now on the back, you can see that I used the same amount of thread for the bottom as I did on the back as I did on the front. And then as I went towards the top, I did the thread saver method, which shows the different, where are we here? It shows the two different ways to do it. I have not been watching the Sewing Bee. I think I had it on last week a little bit, where they made like shirts or something. But I haven't had it on like since the beginning. So I'm like, don't know any of the people or anything like that. Now the bottom goes really quickly because they're all stitches that go fast. So up first here, we have the back stitch, and I'm gonna make mine really long. So here we go, the back stitch is like this. Right? Come up on this one. Yeah? Go down. And then you're gonna go forwards. And go back down the same hole that you went down the first time. So there you go. So the stitch works like this. You always go forward. I'll move it over. You want to try and keep your stitches about the same length. Always forward and going back. Now again, there's a thread saver method for this as well. you can go up towards this one like we started and make a forward stitch, and then go up a ways, and then do that back stitch. Normally I do it this way when I know I'm running out of thread and I want to save it. Carrie says the sampler looks so sweet. It'll look good with a variegated rainbow thread too. I do have some variegated threads that will be in the kits. There's a dark red, like a really dark red. And then there's also a green. It's actually this green, light to dark. That would be so cute. All right, next up is a running stitch. The running stitch is just a series of straight stitches and they do not connect. So you can see this is a, I almost just said dotted line. It's definitely not a dotted line. What's it called? Dashed line? But yeah, the running stitch is like this. So you just go up and down, up and down. And none of these here will touch. So they're almost just like spaced out straight stitches. Ooh, someone says every time I do a back stitch and go into the same hole, it all separates and undoes itself, if that makes sense. It does make sense. Sometimes that might be because you're not necessarily going through the same hole, but you're splitting the stitches. You know what I mean? So you don't want to go through the same hole and this piece here. You want to just go up through the same hole, and sometimes that can be a little bit difficult. So this one is great for closing up the back of your hoop. So you do this all the way around the edge and then pull them together and it will cinch the back for you. There we go. So moving on, we have the chain stitch. Yes, I love the chain stitch. Okay, there's actually two ways to do the chain stitch. One is the chain stitch and one is the reverse chain stitch. So I'm going to show you just the regular chain stitch. I'm going to turn it like this. So you're going to start up here like this. Let me just move it up. There we go. Yeah, make your loop. Just like the detached chain stitches that we did up here. But you're going to go up through this loop, and wherever you go, whichever one you choose, you need to make all of your stitches the same length. So if you choose to go all the way out here, you need to make every single stitch from here to there, them all the same length. So I'm going to make mine quite large, because if I do them too small, it'll take ages, won't it? All right, you're going to go up around like this. Keep that loop like that, and we're going to do the same thing again. So go back down right here, come up about the same length. This is a very interesting station all of a sudden. Go back down, up about the same length. And you can find out how to do the reverse chain stitch in one of the stitch along videos. But for our purposes today, this will do just fine. Let me just move it down. This will be saved onto YouTube. It's not going to save for 24 hours like the Instagram lives normally do, but I will upload it to YouTube. And this will be part of the kit that you can get. So I talked about it at the beginning of the video, so you might have to wait until it goes onto YouTube to be able to learn about the kit. And then to end, you're just going to do that one little stitch on the other side, that securing stitch. like that. So that's finished. All right, so the next one is a buttonhole stitch. Let me just make a knot here. Buttonhole stitches, they're part of like the fly stitch family. Ooh, I almost got my fabric. Oh, dearie me. Let me just get a bit more thread. So for this one, it's going to make these kind of like right angles, depending on where you put your stitches. Now, when we do the fly stitch down here, you'll see that the stitches are very, very similar, but just a little bit different. She said, I love that you've moved from the soup cans to a house brick. Yes. It's a genius, I'm not gonna lie. It's like so heavy, it doesn't move at all, and I can't knock them over. So it's perfect for me. So for this one, you actually have to see both my hands, so I'm not gonna zoom in as much, because it's, you're gonna need to hold this out of the way. So you're gonna go up here, down here. I'm not gonna keep it in the stories, but I'm gonna put it on YouTube, so you can go and subscribe to my YouTube channel and you'll be able to find it there. But I'm not gonna keep it for 24 hours like I do with my other Instagram lives for the stitch along. All right, so you're gonna go down here again in the corner. Ooh. And then up in this corner. Does that make sense? Like that. And so they make little right angles. So this is a blanket stitch. It's really good for blankets and borders. It's a really good stitch to like stitch, if you wanted to put like a piece of felt onto your embroidery and you wanted to just stitch the edge, make it like a nice stitch like that, or like applique. I know they use that a lot. Hey! This is a blanket stitch, yes. So someone's just said, what do you do with these when you're finished? So this is just a sampler. The idea of samplers is to practice your stitches before you do actual embroideries. It's also a good way to learn a lot of stitches if you're just starting out. I've tried to make it in a way that looks nice so that it's not just straight lines. Obviously, most of these stitches are straight lines. But yeah, I would put it on the wall. I put it on a bookcase. Hang it from a doorknob. Hang it from a door. Thank you. I think a blanket stitch and a buttonhole stitch are the same, to be fair. Because I've actually got this written down as a buttonhole stitch, but I also know it as a blanket stitch. So I think they're the same. But I will investigate. I'll investigate and I'll post it later. I've just stitched off the screen. So what you need to do when you finish it, because these don't stay by themselves. So you can't just do a knot here and be finished, because if I did a knot, then this wouldn't be secure. Okay, so you've got two choices. You can either continue it in a straight line off, yeah, and go down here. So it looks like that in a straight line. Or you can do a little securing stitch on the corner. And that way it would just finish with this right angle. So you can choose which way that you would like to do it. Both are completely fine. Some people don't like putting knots so close to the edge of their hoop. But again, both ways are fine. All right, we only have 3 left. The next one is a whipped back stitch. Are you ready? So it's just like the back stitch. So we did the back stitch up here, except the back stitch, you can see each individual stitch. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stitches. Here, it's gonna almost look like a stem stitch. So it's gonna look like it's twisted, and you're not gonna see any of the stitch marks. So here we go. Just like the back stitch, so you have to do the back stitch first. I'm gonna make these big so you can see. Again, about the same length. Tori, how do you get your lines so straight? Practice, babes, that's how. All about the practice. And the truth of the matter is that it doesn't matter how straight they're drawn on, you can always go over it and make them straighter if you want. Now with the whipped back stitch, you want to end going back. So if you're trying to, where is it? If you're trying to save thread, you absolutely can. But you have to end going back. And the reason is because we're gonna actually come back up again at the end. So if you end going down here, like that, we're gonna come back up this way. Okay, so we've just done the back stitch and we've come up again here. So what you're gonna do now is you're gonna put your needle under each of these stitches and you're gonna whip it. So this is one of those where you might have to, if you're doing a real embroidery or you're making a gift for a friend, something like that, and you wanna plan your stitches a little bit, you're gonna start here, go all the way down and come all the way back. So if you know there's gonna be a lot of knots at the end, you might have to put this in strategically. So here we go. Okay, you're gonna put your needle under every stitch. Now, whichever way, if you do left to right or right to left, oh, there we go. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which way that you do it, but you have to stick with the same way the entire time. So you're gonna go like this, and then under each stitch, the same way every time. Yeah? So you can't switch and go back this way. No, you cannot. It has to be the same way every single time. And you can see it gets that like whipped, braided, twisty kind of look to it. Not braided. What are you talking about? And then what I like to do is give it a little tug. Hi, Wanda. Give it a little tug straight. So just in case it doesn't, you don't want it to be really loose, you know? You don't want to see each of these like this. You don't want it to be like that. Yeah? You want to really pull that, not too tight, but just give it a snug little tug. And then you put it right back down at the end. And there you go, whipped back stitch. Hey. All right, we only have 2 left. I'm gonna smash this hour time thing. All right, next we have the fly stitch. So we're gonna do 1 stitch in the front. Okay. And from now on, we're gonna come up on the left and go down on the right. Let's just zoom in so you can see what I mean. All right, so we're gonna come up on the left. Yeah, go down on the right. And then we'll come right back up in the middle at this one here. Can you see? And then make a stitch. So you can see how this is very similar to the buttonhole blanket stitch because it kind of, you're depending on the other stitches to hold it in a way, you know? So here, this strand of thread here is just held in place in its shape by this straight stitch. So here we go again. Up on this side, down on this side. And down. This is a really, it hooks it. That's completely correct. You said it way better than I did. And you're going to end with the easiest stitch of all. So this one here and the very first one that we did, they are very, very similar. They make the same kind of shape. And because of that, a lot of people get them mixed up. But I think of this, you know, like when you're a kid and you make those like V birds, like the V birds. That's kind of like what these look like. And they look like they're gonna fly away. So this is the fly stitch. And the fern stitch over here has really, really straight edges here. Yeah? So that's how you can tell them apart. Well, that's how I tell them apart at least. Almost done. And we're going to end with a straight stitch. And a straight stitch is just you go up on one side and you go down on the other, just like the running stitch. You can use them in different configurations to make flowers or even leaves. You can use them with all kinds of things. So I thought I would end on an easy peasy one, straight stitch, if I have enough thread here. Oh my goodness. We'll see. I bet you the answer is no. So you go up on one end and you go down on the other. Oh my gosh, you guys, that's perfect. So we're just gonna flip it over and tie these two together just a little bit. So I've already said I'm not going to save the video to a highlight because it's too long, and Instagram stories, they only last 24 hours, so I'm not going to save it to there either. I'm going to save it to my YouTube, and you can subscribe to that if you want to watch it later. Yeah, so this is what the back looks like. Yeah. So you can tell where I did the proper back stitch and how I did the thread saver method. Same with here and here, where this is the proper satin stitch and this is the thread saver method. So yeah, so that's what it is. So the sampler boxes, they should be up soon. I know I'll announce my friend who I'm doing it with soon as well. So have a look out for that. And you'll have a different choice of threads. Fabric, so if you want just white, if you want cream, if you want pattern on it, if you want linen, the linen will be a little bit more expensive because linen is more expensive to purchase than just white cotton. So just as a price comparison, this is like £2.50 for a meter and this one's like 15 pounds for a meter. So you'll have, you know, a little bit of a price discrepancy with that. And then you'll get 1 or 2 colors of embroidery floss, a needle, the pen, not this pen, but a pen. Let me see if I have it over here, just to give you, it'll be like this, but it'll be probably be green or black. Yeah. And then, yeah, and then from there you can watch the video, grab the pattern, it'll be in the kit. And you can do either this sampler or you can do the one that my friend has made. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I had a lot of fun making it. So I will see you guys later. I hope you have a lovely day and get a look out for the little mini kits. All right. Bye.